2 briskets, and we're gonna cook them about the same way, but we're gonna use different seasoning on them. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna taste them and see which one I like better. There's almost no substitute for letting these things smoke for 12, 14, maybe as long as 18 hours, depending on the size. So we have a 2.6 pound, a 3.6 pound. Both of them are manager special, 1165 and 1947. Really, I'm using these 2 cheap pieces of meat because I kind of want to show how it's really hard to screw up a brisket, because I frequently hear, man, I don't want to use a brisket because I don't want to screw it up. Trick is time, low and slow heat, and that's really what makes the difference at the end of the day. Now, this isn't like your traditional piece of steak, meat, or something like that where you want the internal temperature at rare at like 125. The flavor that comes from brisket, and the reason that we really like the flavor of a brisket meat, is because it's a well-used muscle. Think about like a tenderloin, soft meat, but doesn't have a lot of flavor because it's not used as much. This is used a lot, it's kind of sinewy, so we have to get it up to over 200 degrees to get that fat to the point where it actually is rendered down and actually tastes good. Now it's time to season, and I'm gonna keep it fairly simple. Salt, it's got pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, and I have some paprika. Larger one in that fashion. And then I have some Killer Hog brisket rub. So I'm gonna use that on the smaller one. I'm gonna start with my salt, just kind of rub it in. Now I'm gonna make sure I get the bottom and the sides too. This is my super high-tech salt spreader. Works really well. On the fat side, I'll usually go a little bit heavier on the seasoning. So the goal in cooking this unwrapped until it reaches 150 or so internally, if we wrapped it right off the bat and we didn't let it kind of smoke for a while, there wouldn't be any bark and all the seasoning wouldn't kind of crust up. The reason we have to wrap it, as the meat actually starts to sweat, temperature of it goes down, and it becomes really hard for it to actually get all the way up to the 200 degrees, of which we need obviously to get that kind of meat to tenderize. Sometimes, you know, you would want this to kind of sit and marinate for a little while, or you can just throw it right on the smoker, which that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the lid, and I'm gonna check the temperature of them to see where they are right now. If they're in that 150 to 160 range, it's gonna be time to wrap them and then crank the temperature up. It says we're at 163 degrees. Now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna bump this temperature on up to 225, and we're gonna cook until finished. Okay, I am excited to see what these look like. So this is kind of a trick to allow it to stall for a while. They're still gonna be piping hot. So yeah, look at that steam coming off of there. When you put them in the cooler, fat allows kind of to meld with the meat. If you take it right off right away, sometimes that won't happen. And as a result, it's kind of a really dry piece of meat. The grain is going this way right here. So I'm gonna cut opposite to that. And that way we don't get any long sinews of meat. So yeah, look at that smoke ring. Yeah, look at that. That smoke ring. Look how thick that smoke ring is. And this is, again, remember, this is like a $10 piece of brisket. And I take this, you know, places and people are like, man, this is the best brisket I've ever had. And you saw, I did almost nothing to it other than season it. It's falling apart. This one might be just a tad overdone. It's right on that edge. Kind of flap it just a little bit. You don't want it to fall apart. You actually want it to kind of sit together. This one is like on the verge of almost falling apart, but not quite. This tiny little piece of meat was on the smoker for like 14 hours. Isn't always necessary for something this size. That's good. And I'm saving this butcher paper because after I cut it, actually wrap the meat back in it, these cut pieces will actually absorb some of the fat that's in the butcher paper. A little bit more elastic. So this one is actually even more perfect. Look, I mean, look at that smoke ring right there. Let's give this a little nibble and see how this tastes. That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Oh yeah. It would be a crime to put any sauces on this. So I hope this stupid, easy, simple brisket recipe was useful for you guys. If it was, give me a like or a comment. Let me know what you think. I don't profess to be a professional cook. I'm just an amateur. This is just what I'm doing to have fun. Thanks for following along. See you guys on the next one.